This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Mets overcome some sloppy play. Juan Soto sets a new career high in home runs. And more importantly, the Mets take the opener of this three-game series with the Washington Nationals by a final of 12-6. Welcome into the Mets Postcast, live here, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I'm your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. Special one tonight. Also, shout out to those of you watching us on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel as well. And apologies in advance because they are not going to send the tape to this game to the Hall of Fame. Sloppiness across the board for both sides. It was the story early for the Mets. That sloppiness dug them a 4-1 hole. Sloppiness by the Washington Nationals allowed the Mets to get back in it. That's where we'll start tonight's postcast.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Much easier to talk about this because the Mets came out the other side with this 12-6 victory. They are going to stay in front of everybody in this National League wildcard race. Nobody is going to get any closer to them now with 8 games to go on the calendar. But the Mets played a very sloppy game, especially early on in this one. And they are going to have to clean that up here with now 8 games remaining. They need every one of these games. It is depending on who you talk to, maybe 83, 84 wins should lock up this playoff spot. They get to 80 with the win tonight. They're going to have to find some more here over the final 8 games of the season, including the next 2 over the weekend. And that third inning was a bit of a mystery. Jose Siri with a couple of weird misplays. Brandon Sproat throwing the ball into right field. And Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brett Beatty kind of slow getting to that ball. That allows the run to score for Washington to tie it up. And you're watching the game and you're thinking to yourself, man, this is a flat effort from a team that needs every one of these games. You know what the drill is. I mean, let's face it, as we're doing the postcast, the Reds already won tonight. The Diamondbacks are in the process. They're leading as we speak. And so you need these games. You need to keep everybody at that same distance with only 8 games to go. And you can't play this sloppy. You got to support your young starter on the mound. I know his throw into right field certainly set the stage, but Siri misplaying that ball, misplaying 2 balls, misplaying the one that popped in and out of his glove, and then just weirdly taking what seemed like a bad route to the ball. Although watching it in real time, it seemed like he got there, just kind of let it go by him. It was very odd. And I'll say this, since this feels like the place to talk about it, you got to play the best 9. And I don't think it matters if it's a lefty or a righty. Cedric Mullins is the best option in center field for the Mets. I know Jose Siri, if you look at the back of the baseball card, if you pull up a baseball StatCast, baseball savant page, it'll tell you that Siri's a good defender out there in center field, and Cedric Mullins isn't that great of a defender. But Jose Siri hasn't played in months, and he's come back, and it just has not worked out. It has not been the Jose Siri that the Mets had for that small little run at the start of the season. And it's okay to say, you know what? Cedric Mullins gives us the best chance to win these games, and we'll take a left-on-left matchup and maybe take some bad at-bats from Cedric Mullins, because Jose Siri, it just feels like he's shaking off rust still, and the Mets can't afford that. The Mets need their best 9 on the field and in the lineup every single day. And right now, when it comes to that center field position, Jose Siri is not one of the best 9. Cedric Mullins, at least until Tyrone Taylor comes back, was in a game tonight for a rehab assignment. Until Tyrone Taylor comes back, that position needs to be Cedric Mullins's every day here the rest of the way. Boy, is it fun to watch Juan Soto play baseball for the New York Mets. He hit a big home run in this one, his 42nd of the year, a new career high, beating the mark that he set last year with 41. That made it 8-4 New York. And I'll tell you what, for somebody who was having a down year, for somebody who was reportedly unhappy about playing for the Mets and longed to be a Yankee again, he has just put his head down and had one of the best offensive seasons you'll see a Mets hitter have. I saw a stat, I believe it was from Sarah Langs during the game. He's like 5th or 6th all time in home runs before the age of 27. I mean, it is just incredible what he is doing. A 40 home run season, already has over 100 RBIs. I know that ball in right field that Sproat threw out there, he probably should have hustled to a little bit quicker. I get that, but he has just been absolutely great for this team basically all year. 40 home runs, 100 plus RBIs, 34 stolen bases. It's going to be a tough task. It's going to be a tall task, but 40 steals still on the table. Needs 6 in these final 8 games. He's just the MVP of this team. He should get some MVP votes. Probably second or third place votes when they do the voting here at the end of the season. He has just been absolutely excellent. And if that's a down year, I can't wait to see what a peak year for Juan Soto is. And I have to constantly remind myself that he's only 26 years old. He is just the expectation when he steps into that box is that he can just make magic happen. And more often than not, he does. He is just simply incredible. 265 average on the year, 397 on base percentage, drew another 2 walks tonight, hit the big home run. 2 hits in this game, just does it all. He just does it all, and he's just a difference maker. And it's players like that that make you think that when this team gets to the postseason, if and when they get to the postseason, they are going to have a real legitimate chance of making a run. It's having difference makers and players like Juan Soto that can put a team over the top. Got to talk about Brandon Sproat's night. I know there are some of you maybe disappointed that he got taken out in the game when he did. I'll give a little bit of an explanation on that. We got to talk about the job the rest of the bullpen did in this one, the other stuff to keep an eye on here as well, and your thoughts always welcomed on these Mets postcasts. We'll get to all of it here on the other side. This episode brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix, it can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. How about 6 great flavors, 2 milligram, 3 milligram nicotine options? And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 or older to order. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix Toothpicks. Episode also brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks, simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Back here, Mets Postcast, live on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. We're also hanging out with you tonight. Shout out to those of you joining us on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channels as well here on a playoff Friday. As the Mets take this game from the Nationals, they're going to stay in front of everybody. Nobody is going to get a game closer to them for that third and final spot in the National League wild card race. Now just 8 games to go for the Mets, and every day that they can win doesn't matter what everybody else does. Just makes it all that more difficult for those teams to close the gap now with just 8 games to go. Brandon Sproat Got the start tonight for the Mets. The final line, if you look at it on paper, it's not going to be anything to write home about. 4 innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, the 2 walks, the 5 strikeouts, only through 71 pitches, was kind of cruising through the first 2 innings. It's only 3 starts, so it feels weird to say quintessential Brandon Sproat start, but it's what you've come to expect from him. Can generate a lot of ground balls, puts the ball in play, trusts the defense behind him, and didn't throw a ton of 4-seamers. Threw a lot of sweepers, dialed it up at times to 97. I believe he got 1 strikeout on a 97-mile-an-hour fastball up and away. That 3rd inning, the throwaway into right field certainly didn't help. A couple of miscues from Jose Siri didn't help. Sproat then came back and had a shutdown inning in the 4th. And I've seen some of you say that you disagreed with Carlos Mendoza taking Brandon Sproat out with 71 pitches after the 4th. And most nights I would agree with you. Most nights I would say push it. And your bullpen in general, you've been taxing them all year. It feels like a bit of a roll of the dice to go to the bullpen. But at that point, you're holding on to a lead after the Mets take the 8-4 lead in the 4th. You got to go to your guys. You got to try to hold this down. And Sproat at 71 pitches, maybe you could have asked them for 3 more outs, but you knew it was going to be a long night for your bullpen and you needed to get outs and you needed to get a bunch of them. So I could see it both ways. I could see maybe trying to push Sprout for another 3 outs, but I don't hate in a game that you absolutely have to have going to your bullpen that most of the time this year has been huge for you. And it was huge tonight. I know Huascar Brazaban did allow the 2 runs, but after that, all zeros. Brooks Raley, Ryan Stanek, Ryan Helsley, 3. Stuff to keep an eye on. How about 3 straight scoreless outings from Ryan Helsley? Rogers comes in and has the shutdown 8th inning real quick. 6 pitches, just a bunch of ground balls, just being Rogers, just doing what he has done since coming here to New York, just generating a ton of ground balls. And good on the Mets for getting those insurance runs there in the first in the 7th to make it 9-6, but then ultimately in the 8th to make it 12-6, to where, yes, he did get up. Yes, he did throw, but you didn't have to bring Edwin Diaz into the game, and that just frees you up the rest of the weekend to use him back-to-back nights here on Saturday and Sunday to try to go for the sweep of this Washington team and just get it done, right? And so that's probably a sigh of relief for Carlos Mendoza, is that they were able to stretch this lead out enough to where now, if you're Mendoza, you're using Diaz Saturday, and you're not worried about going back to him on Sunday to make sure you get this series victory. Off day on Monday, you start a series with Chicago on Tuesday. And so just frees you up for the rest of the weekend. And that's great. That's that snowball that we constantly talk about for this team. That's the snowball of positivity working for them because they're going to have Diaz each of the next 2 nights. Brent says, how many times have we seen Rogers have less than 8 or 9 pitches to get 3 outs? He's just been great at it this year. I mean, he induces contact. That's who he is as a pitcher. He doesn't blow it by you. It's all about command and locating and just giving you a different look. That arm angle is what does it. And it generates weak, soft contact. And he just, more often than not, has been able to do that for the Mets here. And again, didn't have to use Diaz tonight. A huge, huge deal. But Brendan Nimmo with 2 more hits tonight in the game. Pete Alonso with 2 more hits and an RBI. We mentioned Soto's big night. How about Francisco Lindor going 3 for 4? Just a great night for the guys that need to step up. When you get to this part of the season, when you get to crunch time, when you get to these real important moments, there's a handful of players that you look to, and we all know who they are. It's Lindor, it's Soto, it's Alonso, it's Nimmo. Those are the players we look to. Tonight, all of those guys stepped up. They picked up the slack from a rough inning in the field defensively. They didn't allow that to sink their shoulders and, sulk and play poorly the rest of the game. They battled back and they took care of business and they win this baseball game. And really it's sloppy. It's not going to go to the Hall of Fame. It's not going to be pretty. Combined 4 errors between the 2 teams, although there was an error that they must have changed later on because the Mets had 2 errors at one point. So they must have changed one of those errors throughout the course of the game. But a lot of errors, a lot of sloppiness. The Mets come out on the other side of it. They win this one. They get to 80 wins. And now we can do some scoreboard watching. And that's where we're going to leave these postcasts now. I think it's my duty here to let you know where things stand and what the math says for this team. I'm sure Ryan will also have you covered on the main podcast feed with this. But as we are wrapping up here, the Reds already won. They beat the Cubs. Remember, the Cubs aren't playing for anything, so not surprised that the Reds were able to win that game at home. They won 7-4. As we wrap up here, the Diamondbacks are holding on to a 2-1 lead there in the 3rd out in Arizona. So right now the Diamondbacks are leading, but that game is in the top of the 3rd. So as we get out of here with 8 games to go for the New York Mets, They are holding on to a 2-game lead over the Cincinnati Reds. It will either stay a 2-game lead over the Diamondbacks, or it will stretch to a 3-game lead over the Diamondbacks if the Phillies can come back and win that one. Remember, the Reds have the tiebreaker over the Mets. The Diamondbacks and Mets split the season series, so that's the way the tiebreakers break down. But if the Mets just keep on winning, it is not going to matter, and that should be the message here for the rest of the weekend. And let's face it, it's the best starter on the New York Mets going tomorrow. I don't think there's any doubt about that who the Mets' best starter is right now. His name is Nolan McLean. He's the guy going for this team tomorrow as they will go for the series win. And we said it earlier in the week. I'll repeat it here again. This really feels like a must sweep for the Mets. If you take care of business here, you sweep this series, you get to 82 wins. It's going to go a long way to boxing out these teams that are trying to chase you down, because then you start to feel like you may need just 2 wins out of your final 6 to punch your ticket to the postseason. So this is a team that you should be able to take care of at home. You got past some sloppiness tonight, and here you are now with Nolan McLean, your best pitcher, going tomorrow. You can lock up the series win, and then you can go for the series sweep on Sunday. We are back here. Mets Postcast, Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed, breaking down Nolan McLean's start and breaking down whether or not the Mets get that series win, get themselves to 81 wins, and continue to hold off all of these teams in this wild card race. Make sure you subscribe to us here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel if you are new. Hit that notification bell so you are notified when we go live after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. The Mets overcome some early sloppiness. Juan Soto is Juan Soto. He does Juan Soto things. The Mets win 12-6, and for at least tonight, they are holding off everybody in the National League wild card race. We're back tomorrow to break down Game 2 of this series. Until then, have a good one, Mets fans.